All right, so welcome to lesson number 1. Again, my name is Jamil Mooney, and this is Going Where You Have Not Been, or Going Where We Have Not Been, the micro series lesson of my new book. And our first lesson is going to be on God versus science. So the topic of this lesson is God versus science. Okay, so I just want to talk about just a few things. In the book, this is actually one of the introductory chapters, but it is pivotal. This chapter and the second chapter, which deals with innovation, are monumental in building a foundation for where we go in this book. So please, listen to this as many times as possible. And let me just sidebar say this, okay? So as a person who does research, a person who has done now is in 10 years of active research on various topics. Listen, I always take notes. I always highlight if I read. It's a part of the process of how I learn and retain, you know what I'm saying? So you listen, you take notes, you know what I'm saying? If you have the book, you highlight, you know what I'm saying? That's how you sketch it into your long-term memory, okay? That's just a side piece that I thought that maybe you wanted to take in, okay? God versus science, let's talk about it. All right, first of all, let's make the obvious known, okay? There is nothing that man can do that God is not light years ahead of, okay? And so even as a person who has a degree, you know what I'm saying? I'm dual master, at this point, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to know that my perspective, everything that I study and build is built around the Bible, because I believe that the Bible is the source of all truth. It contains all truth. And I know that's real controversial for a whole lot of people, you know what I'm saying? But I think that if we're some of the topics and things that we're going to discuss, you know what I'm saying, if we don't have at least a strong basis or a long foundation, the right foundation, the Bible literally says that, a house that doesn't build on a foundation that's solid, when the storms and the winds come, it's going to be over for that place. And so I believe that all truth must be built on a foundation or it's faulty. Okay, so with that being said, again, there's nothing that man can do that God is not light years ahead of. Even 2 Peter 3:8 says a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. And so literally what that means is that in the spirit world, there is no time, there is no distance. But in our realm, the earth realm, it means that if we're in 2024, it means that God would be in 3024. It means he would be 1,000 years ahead of us. And so that's even tough to even comprehend, you know what I'm saying, somebody that would be that far ahead or that advanced, you know what I'm saying. We only have a few people who have even tried to even talk about what the world would be like. And one of them was Stephen Hawking, and he was a physicist who was now deceased, but he attempted to give details about what life would be like in 3022 and how that we potentially would need to move to another planet, right? My man's was highly educated, you know what I'm saying? Of course, he was a physicist, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, he refused to admit that God was the creator, you know what I'm saying? Or that he believed in the Bible. He made it known that he didn't. And so another one of my favorite smart guys from the past is Albert Einstein. And he said something that really stood out to me. He said that science without religion is lame, but religion without science is blind. And I think that has a major truth to it, you know what I'm saying? But my quote is that revelation of the word of God makes religion lame and gives sight to science. Okay, because I believe that what we have seen is that science has been man's way of trying to make sense of the supernatural, as well as all of the things that God has done without him. Okay, that was my viewpoint for a very long time. But whenever you begin to read scriptures like Colossians chapter 1, verse 16 through 17, that says stuff like, by him, talking about God, talking about Jesus, all things were created, visible and invisible, in heaven and in earth. So we're talking about things that are invisible. We're talking about things that we can't see with the eye, whether that's atoms, whether that's all of the things on the periodic table, or whether that's talking about the things that we can see, trees, humans, animals. Okay. And so I find it ironic that even in the Bible, because we believe in the law of documentation that says that if it's not written, if it's not documented, then it's not legit. And so here we are with a Bible, you know what I'm saying, that covers a huge span of time. It starts off by calling God a creator, which is the first characteristic that we see of God, is that he is a creator. Not only that, Genesis 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And that word create there is a very, very interesting word. It's actually the word bara, spelled B-A-R-A. And it has like several different meanings, and all of them apply. Okay, now I'm just going to give you just a few of them. One of them means that God was qualified. He was highly qualified to be the creator. It almost gives the connotation of God having more knowledge and more intelligence than all of the graduates of all of the Ivy League schools put together. So that's Harvard, Yale, Wake Forest, name them all the people who have ever graduated. You could put all their minds together. It's not even close to God. Okay. The second one means that God enjoyed sharing his brilliance with his creation. And so I want to kind of bring that into a smaller context in looking at it from the perspective of one of the ways that God shares his brilliance is that he does it through the sharing of academic disciplines. So all of us who will watch this, or all of us who are in the world who endeavor into certain fields. So whether you are into technology, whether you're into chemistry, whether you're into physics, education, whether you're into architecture, all of these are tiers of God's mind being shared with his creation. So that's what it means. It means that God shared his brilliance, and because we couldn't handle the ability of his mind and the way that it's built, he branched it out into tiers of knowledge called academic disciplines. And so it's no wonder that some of us end up pursuing certain careers, you know what I'm saying? And so with that, the third one is that it means that God actually created beings that could help him govern his creation. And so primarily we're talking angels and humans. And so in the aspect of angels, we're talking watchers, thrones, princes, you know what I'm saying? These beings help God govern the universe and all that it was created by his words. Okay, this also includes mankind. And Genesis chapter 1, again, is documentation that says that God holds the patent on humans, the universe, and all spiritual beings, primarily humans. And this is where I want to start, because we have to take the Bible in its literal terms, what it says, you know what I'm saying? So humans, specifically Homo sapiens, they are the exact offspring of God. And so we're talking about from Adam coming forward. Those are Homo sapiens. These are a prototype that was made in the direct image of God, image bearers. Not only that, but they have the likeness of God. And what that means is, this is why humans seem really creative, because they are carrying the nature of the person that made them. And so over the last 6,000 years, which is the approximate time that mankind, as it relates to Homo sapien, has been on earth, we can see the creativity that was given to him, whether in some cases they acknowledged God or they didn't. And so probably the most prominent aspect of creation, I would say, is the industrial revolutions. Okay. And so let's just take America. So in America was agrarian all the way up until the 1760s, which basically means if you got a job, no matter what you did, it was built around crops. It was built around sowing and reaping. It was built around animals, cattle, livestock. That was all that was in place. But in 1765, I think it was when it all changed. Okay, that was what we call the first industrial revolution. And this is when coal was introduced. And so we had things like coal mining and the steam engine, the cotton gin was created. So all of a sudden, just innovation began to hit the earth and things started to change. Okay. And we had another one 100 years later in the late 1800s. I think it was in like 1870. And this is when we got the introduction of electricity, gas, and as a byproduct, we got cars and airplanes. So most of you know Henry Ford, he brought car manufacturing to America. Carl Benz was one of the originators of creating the car. But we had the Wright brothers who created the airplane and took their first flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, where I'm from. And so from there, we moved about 100 years later into the revolution number 3. And this is where we got the rise of the internet and computers, electronics and telecommunications and things of that nature. The Walkman the boombox, you know what I'm saying? So times literally were changing, you know what I'm saying? Almost every 100 years, a major revolution would take place. And then finally, we're currently in the fourth revolution now, which is the time of public internet, artificial intelligence, robotics, advanced engineering, and there are just so many branches and topics, and some of them which we'll cover. And so basically, we could just see that 6,000 years have passed. If the day of the Lord is 1,000 years and vice versa, then that means that we're looking at the time of what I believe Jesus said was Matthew 27:37. He says that in the days of my coming, which means that if there were 7 days in creation, 6,000 years have passed. One day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. We're 6,000 plus years in. That means there's only one day left. So that means that we're coming to the end of an age. Jesus said in Matthew 27:37, he said that in the days of his coming, in the end of the age, it would be like it was in the days of Noah. Okay. And so the days of Noah, or what I call the Genesis 6 project for me, is my life's work outside of the gospel. And so much of what you will learn in this and in the purpose of the writing of this book will come from that foundation. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too much information. We're over 10 minutes. I try to keep these videos 10 minutes and under, so we're at 11:30. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. Take as much notes as you need, and I will see you in the next lesson.